by everyone, please.
The Kavod Acharon for Mr. Harwitt. I think everyone here called him Mr. I don't think anyone called him Herbert.
The Spears did.
The Spears did.
That's it.
So, Tzvi ben Shmuel Gavriel Halevi. We're here to pay last respects. We're asking Rabbi Yaakov Talbis, the Rabbi of Mount Sinai, to please begin with the Perek of Tehillim.
אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים ובדרך חטאים לא עמד ומושב ליצים לא ישב כי אם בשורס אדוני חפצו ושורסו יגע יומם ולילה והיה כעת שסוע פלגי מים אשר פריו ייתן בעיתו ועליהו לא יבוא וכל אשר יעשה יצליח לכן הרשעים, כי אם כמות אשר תדפנו רוח, על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט, וחטאים בעדת צדיקים, כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים, ודרך רשעים תאבד.
I'd like to just say a few words about Mr. Harwitt. It's a daunting task to speak about Mr. Harwitt and to give him the kavod he deserves. We also are maintaining the guidance that Mr. Harwitt gave, that there should be no hespedim, no eulogies. So what I'm going to say is not a hesped. It's not a eulogy. A eulogy is intended to bring forth tears, to make people cry. But Mr. Harwitt would not want us to cry. Mr. Harwitt would always say, you know what? I don't know what I did to deserve this long good life. He would comment, and I'm quoting, I've had a good life. I have no complaints. Every day is a gift. Mr. Harwitt was born in Berlin. He told me the date. It's August 24th, 1925, which corresponds with Dalet Elul. His father Shmuel Gavriel, fought for Germany in World War I and earned the Iron Cross. His father was a bit of a cantor, was a bit of a chazan. And Mr. Harwitt remembered that on Yom Kippur in 1936, he walked for 2 hours with his father. They walked through the Brandenburg Gate to get to the Adas Yisrael Shul, where his father led the davening. Shortly after that, Mr. Harwitt came to Washington Heights. He would shine shoes on the corner of 181st Street, and he'd send money back to Germany, back to relatives, until there were no relatives left to send money. Yaakov Kanner showed me an old picture of Mr. Harwitt, where he's standing on the rooftop of his building in 1938. He's holding a baseball glove. He became American very quickly, and he liked the Mets. I have to admit, the Mets did not win a single game from 1938 for another, what was it, like 30 years or so? And Mr. Harwitt, one of his last comments is that he wanted to stay alive until the next Mets season began. He was very devoted to his mother. His mother was Esther or Erna. Chani Hilowitz told me that at a shul dinner in 1986, they honored Mr. Harwitt. And Mr. Harwitt said, you know, I'm going to have to leave in the middle of the dinner to go and be with my mother. Every day after work, he would go and spend time with his mother. His mother had dementia, but he would spend time. And even at the dinner where they honored him, He wanted to go and spend time with his mother. Chani, who could be tough, said, "You're not going." That's it. If you want to know, to some extent, why Mr. Harwitt had a long life, why Mr. Harwitt had a good life, it's a pasuk in the Torah. Kabed es avicha v'asimecha, l'man yarichun yamecha, u'leman yitak lach. You honor your parents so that you'll have a long life and it will be good. Mr. Harwitt kept up the family business. There was a business called Itzgowitzki Press in Berlin, and Mr. Harwitt's grandfather took over that business. And Mr. Harwitt took over, and it became known as Scribe Publications. And he published work, including, there was a fellow, Jacob Petrovsky. He was an early Reform rabbi. And in the introduction to the book, Ever Since Sinai, he spoke about how Herbert Harwitt edited this text, maintaining the family connection that we had since his grandfather and my grandfather were connected in Berlin. Mr. Harwitt was a fixture of the Washington Heights community. He was a member of Community Board 12. He was on the Committee for Aging. I guess they knew that he'd be an expert on aging. Mr. Harwitt was a member of the Audubon Society of Community Board 12. When Audubon Hall was being redone, he insisted that there would be an exhibit for Congregation Emes V'Tzedek. Congregation Emes V'Tzedek merged into Mount Sinai. Rabbi Schneidman, my predecessor, came from Congregation Emes V'Tzedek. Mr. Harwitt was very close to Rabbi Shlomo Kahn. Rabbi Shlomo Kahn was the rabbi of Beth Hillel on 182nd Street. And Mr. Harwitt, with his Scribe Press, he published a Haggadah. It might be one of the first Haggadahs that was published in English also, with commentary. The Haggadah is called From Twilight to Dawn. And in the book's introduction, Rabbi Kahn thanks Herbert Harwitt, who gave a critical reading of the book's manuscript and made numerous valuable suggestions. But for everyone here, everyone present, Mr. Harwitt's strongest connection to the Heights was through Mount Sinai Jewish Center. It was in Mount Sinai that his bar mitzvah took place 85 years ago. 85 years ago. Pasha Shoftim. And everyone who is at a certain age and above remembers the way he would read. Anochi, Anochi, Hu, Menachemchem. So fitting. I, Hashem, I am the one who can comfort you. The only time Mr. Harwitt did not read that Haftorah was when he spent a few years in the United States Army. At that point, the Air Force was not separate from the Army. He flew planes. He was in Texas. And he was discharged from the Army. Yaakov Kanner gave me the date. I believe it's December the 6th, 1946. The American flag represents the Army. He was a very proud American. We had a Veterans Day shalashudas in the shul many times. And Mr. Harwitt would speak, and he would tell his stories. One of the stories was that someone meets him down in Texas and says, you know what, you better be careful, there are 3 strikes against you. You're Jewish, you're white, and what was the third one? Oh, you're a northerner. You're from the north. Those are the 3 strikes against him. You know, Mr. Harwitt left no children, but he had lots of family. We're all his family. Everyone here is family with Mr. Harwitt. You know, the Navi in the Haftorah that we just read on Asar B'Teves, the Navi speaks about someone who does not leave children. And the Navi says, "V'nosati lahem b'veisi u'b'chomosai yad vashem." I will give them a place. The Radak says it refers to the Beis HaMikdash, but it also refers to a Mikdash Ma'at, the small Beis HaMikdash, which refers to a shul. And I will give them a Yad Vashem. Yad means a place, and Shem means a name that will carry on. If you want to know what the Yad Vashem of Mr. Herbert Harwitt, of Tzvi Ben Shmuel Gavriel is, the Yad Vashem is called Mount Sinai Jewish Center. He kept the shul going in many ways. There were a bunch of people, we used to call them his girlfriends, and he got them to leave money for the shul in his will. I remember when I was the rabbi and we were redoing the downstairs, we were running a little bit short of funding at one point, and suddenly, like a Nes Min HaShamayim, we get a bequest from someone that no one had ever heard of, no one besides Herbert Harwitt. She left us $60,000, and that's how we were able to finish that project. Yad Vashem refers, of course, to the Holocaust memorial in Israel. And Mr. Harwitt maintained Yad Vashem in the shul, which is his Yad Vashem. He poured money into the Holocaust library. So many of the books were purchased by him. There used to be a little librarian's desk, and he would sit there, and groups of school children would come, and he would tell them about the Holocaust. He'd educate them. The Holocaust library in the shul, we named it the Spear Family Holocaust Library, and in the official introduction that we did at the Chanukah Tabayit, we said Spear Family Holocaust Library, sponsored by Herbert Harwitt. That's the way it was. That's the way it was. Mr. Harwitt was president of the shul. He was the vice president when I became rabbi. And in the shul's kesher, in the paper that came out, he wrote nearly 100 articles. Most of his articles were about the Holocaust. They're about anti-Semitism, about the protocols of the anti-Zionism, prayer calls of the elders of Zion, He would send me notes to the effect of, Rabbi Schwartz, this is a timely article from 20 years ago. That's the way he did it. The last few conversations I had with him were always about his fear about the uptick of anti-Semitism in the United States. He was a man who read widely, and his articles would reflect his scholarship and how much he read. He knew so much, and he invested so much into the shul. He was the president of the Chevra Kadisha, and every year at the Chevra Kadisha breakfast, he'd try to bring the biggest speakers. Kristallnacht, he'd try to bring the biggest speakers. And even when the shul couldn't really afford it, it happened because he paid. Rebbetzin Young Grace came. He liked Chazan Malavani, who came and performed at a shul event. He sponsored so much in the shul. But I want to talk about one mistake that Mr. Harwitt made. You could check me on this. I found it online last night. Moment Magazine, August 2001, has an article about the decline of Washington Heights. And the article quotes a certain Herbert Harwitt. And he says, and I quote, "We are being overpowered by the Spanish community. In another 10 or 15 years from now, we will be a page, maybe a paragraph in history. It's very sad, but it's the truth." You know what, Mr. Harwitt? You were wrong. You were wrong. It's been a long time since 2001, and the community is here. And let me tell you why the community is here. The community is here because a lot of the people right now at this Levaya started a minyan. First it was in an apartment, and then the minyan outgrew that apartment. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And
Okay.
they looked for various places to daven. And some of the shuls in the Heights were not really accommodating for various reasons. And Mr. Herbert Harwitt single-handedly decided, you know what, we're going to take this chevra in. And at first, they davened downstairs, and then they moved upstairs, and they took the shul, and they breathed life into the shul. Mount Sinai is alive today, not just because of bequests of old women, but because Mr. Harwitt was a man of foresight, a man of vision, a man who knew, I want to be wrong. The comment I made in that magazine in 2001, that comment is not true. Mr. Harwitt, this community lives because of you. The community is strong because of you. Mount Sinai Jewish Center is a Yad Vashem. It is a place for you. It will carry on your name. You gave us a shul without a mortgage, and we are taking that shul, those present are taking that shul and they're keeping it going. You know, every week when I'd speak to Mr. Harwitt, the end of the conversation would be Shabbat Shalom. That's the way he said it. Someone once asked him, how did they say it in Germany? But he would say Shabbat Shalom. And I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. I want to wish you rest, peace. I want to wish you peace from all the things that you're worried about. All that anti-Semitism that so consumed you the last few years. Shalom. Mr. Harwitt, at this point, we're going to ask 6. We want to Maria Luna, who was on the community board for many years, has requested to just say a few words.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. My name is Maria Luna. As you can see, I'm not Jewish. I met Harvey. I don't know how many of you knew that the synagogue started in 167th Street and Broadway, across the street from the Children's Hospital before going to your new place. So I go back with him for many years. When he had also his business, I would work for the Museum of Natural History. He used to do the binding of all these fantastic, manuscript and great books, and so we have a great connection there. But I don't want to leave here without letting you know, because of his generosity, so many people, so many young people from our community benefited because of his donation. If you recall, he was part of a group called the IRBs, with the International Review Board from Columbia University. We served together, doing research for illnesses, people, and he used to donate, money. I mean, he didn't have a lot of money that I know of, but I think also I would like to remind you that through the Isabella home, also he was part of the group of people that put together resources, financial resources for the young people that wanted to go to medical school, dental, and all that thing. All that came because of the type of person that he was. So for me to be part of this is a celebration of his great life, a celebration that unity. I spent a lot of my years going to the Christian services at your synagogue for many years. My mother and my sister, we enjoy. I had to cry but I'm crying because of joy, because the type of human being that he was. And I want all of you to remind your children that there was someone like him that make unity in our community, because for him it wasn't Jewish, it wasn't Christian, it was a human being in need of each other. And the unity that we need right now is special because we need to get the, Israel forward to, to make sure that the country stays safe, that, something has to happen in this world. And people like him, in our conversation, it was, I just don't know what else to say, but I am with all of you because of the type of person that he was. So thank you so much for letting me share these few words with you. I will always remember him. I love him, and I love him. My sister is sitting on the car because she cannot walk to work, but she's been part of it. So you have a friend with me. I know that you are also a friend of mine. I know that some of you I know for many years. And because of him, I think that we have a better community, a better nation, and we have to look at the future. All of you young people, we have to work together. We need to respect each other. Because of that guy, make it possible for all of us to be great people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as we proceed to this a group of those who signed to be pallbearers, including 5 former presidents of Washington Heights.
That's cool.
Spear. You should know generally we begin the funeral and we say a bracha on seeing a grave for the first time in 30 days. I didn't make that bracha now because it's been less than 30 days since Carla Spear passed, and they had a very special relationship. A relationship that involved basically running the show because Walter Spear would go to bed really early. But that's for a different time. I'm going to ask those who take the Aron. We're going to make 7 stops between here and Tever. I'll be saying Yoshe B'Seiser. You should I say Yoshe B'Seiser.
That's cool. That's very cool. Oh, very nice.